text 17. Okay. Okay, on this 8th day of September 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, text number 17, near the bottom of page 361. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Te Ahoratra Vidojanaha Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyam Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyam Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha. Naga, you want to try? Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharya Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharya Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharya Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha. Bhakta Chad.
Sahasra Yuga Paryantam
Sahasra Yuga Paryantam
Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu
Aharyam Brahmano Viduhu
Ratram Yuga Sahasrantam
Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam
Teho Ratra Vidojanaha.
Teho Ratra Vidojanaha. Vanessa, you there? Guess not. Not today. Okay. Sahasra 1000 Yuga millenniums Paryantam including Ahaha day yat that which Brahmanaha of Brahma Viduhu they know Ratrim night Yuga millenniums Sahasra Antam similarly ending after 1000 Te they Ahah Ratra day and night Vidaha who understand Janaha people. Translation. By human calculation 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Purport. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpas. A kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas or ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. The cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion, there being practically no ignorance and vice, and the yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts 1,296,000 years. In the Dwapara Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts 864,000 years. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the Yuga we have now been experiencing over the last 5,000 years, there is an abundance of strife, ignorance, irreligion, and vice, true virtue being practically non-existent. And this Yuga lasts 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that in the termination of the Yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, saves his devotees, and commences another Satya Yuga. Then the process is set rolling again. These 4 yugas, rotating 1,000 times, comprise 1 day of Brahma, and the same number comprise 1 night. Brahma lives for 100 of such years, and then dies. These 100 years, by Earth calculation, total 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet in the material universe, and which survives all the heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course, Brahma and all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka are subject to death according to the law of material nature. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Okay, slight intermission here. Sorry about that. Okay. So, last 2 verses dealing with Brahma and his abode. We had in 16, from the highest planet in the material world, Brahmaloka, to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So these kind of verses, they kind of are meant to give us a perspective on how fleeting our lifetime is. We have had many births before, some of them human, but in none of them have we utilized our time properly in order to gain liberation. We were completely bewildered and enthralled with the material energy, one way or another. So this is by means of showing us the dimensions, not just the physical dimensions, but the time dimensions that are practically inconceivable. And it's meant to at least I get from it, a sense of urgency about using this fleeting life we have for at least making some progress in solving the ultimate problems of life and moving toward God realization, self-realization, going back to Godhead. So that's what I get from this, and the inconceivable distances, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Might as well be eternity, But for Brahma, he said, remember when he says to Hiranyakashipu, right? Hiranyakashipu, he does all his austerities, and Brahma comes down, and you get the kind of misimpression, or you get the impression that Hiranyakashipu thinks that, this is God. In other words, that's who he's looking for. But he's not God, as Brahma explains, that he's also mortal, because this is what Hiranyakashipu really wants. He wants to be immortal, So he tries to, get around that by having all kinds of ways in which he can't die. He can't be killed by this weapon, as the story. So Nrsimhadev appears, meets all the conditions of the blessing, and still kills him. So, how are we going to use our time? This is, this chapter again. If we remember, near the beginning, there's some critical verses we need to know. Antakale chamameva smaran mukva kalevidam yak priyati samadbhavam yastinat yatra sanksaya. Remember what it means? Antakali. What's Antakali? End time. That's the time of death. Antakali chamam, Krishna says me, eva, smaran, remembers. When? Mukva kalevidam. When you're being liberated, or at least kicked out of the body. What happens? Yak priyati samadbhavam, one attains my nature, one comes back to me. Then the next verse, so that's the ideal situation. We should try to do things in the time between now and when we're faced with that end time, where we can more and more progressively remember Krishna at every moment. Probably, how many times have we heard, especially in his lectures, where he says, remembering or chanting Krishna 24 hours a day. You never know. You might be asleep and you leave your body. But if you're thinking of Hare Krishna, then it's perfect. So then he gives the general principle. It said, Yam hyam vapi smorang bhava jajat jante kalevaram tam tame vaidikonteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever is the dominant thought, yad means whatever. Yam yam vapi smarang bhavam jajan jante kale. When you jajan jante, when you give up at the end time, the body, in other words, you're leaving the body, you have to leave. That determines your next birth. Now, the thoughts in one day that the conditioned soul can be thinking about is very numerous, but there's so many trillions of things that you can get absorbed in that will do anything but take you back to Godhead. They'll take you to another body, and probably in this age, a subhuman body. So it's very an urgent situation that we try to discipline the mind, strengthen the intelligence to control the mind, so that we decide what to think about and what not to think about, what to hear, what to say, and all these different things, because that all determines our consciousness. So especially we find that this Hare Krishna mantra and all the other wonderful sound vibrations that are available to us, that Prabhupada made available, are great ways of increasing our remembrance of Krishna, and especially gathering amongst devotees and sharing. There's a key verse some of you may be familiar with in the third canto. It's part of the Sadhu Sangashtaka. Satam prasangan mama virya sambido bhavanti rit karna rasayana katha tadjoshanad ashu apavargavartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. So he's saying there, he's describing, this is Lord Kapila Dev's teaching his mother, Devahuti. Basically he said, I'll just sum up the verses up to then, that attachments, strong attachments that we have, need to be redirected, not first, ultimately to Krishna, but first toward Krishna's great devotees, the sadhus. Pasanga madaram pashtamatmana kavayo vidu saeshu sadhushu kato moksha dwaram apapatam. Mundane affection or attraction keeps us tied to birth and death, infernal. But love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. And the word prasanga is interesting, because prasanga in this verse means very strong attachment. The prefix pra intensifies whatever comes after it. So they start out with that word. So okay, well then the next question is, this is Devahuti thing. So the humble, submissive disciple thinks, okay, well who's the sadhu? So then he describes the sadhu in a very famous verse. Tatikshava karunika suridak sarvadehinam ajata shatravak shanta saharavak saharabhushana. Now what's interesting about that verse, it's a fascinating verse, doesn't mention bhakti. How did he get that way? That's in the next verse. So he said, tolerance. And I think in the purport there, Prabhupada mentions, when that comes up, he usually does mention Jesus Christ, I was tolerant. And why do you have to be tolerant? Because you're trying to spread Krishna consciousness, and you meet opposition. Or Jesus, God consciousness, you meet opposition. So therefore, tatikshava karunika, and merciful, tolerant and merciful. Suridak sarvadehinam, the well-wishing friend of every living entity. And Prabhupada makes the point, not just human beings, The animals, especially the cows, this is a big thing. Every living entity. Sudirak sarva dehin. Dehina means an embodied soul, any living entity. Ajata shatrava has no enmity toward anyone. Now this is often translated, doesn't have any enemies. But in English parlance, that means someone can have enmity toward you, and he's your enemy. But the point is, you don't have any enmity. And of course, as Hiranyakashipu proved, you can see his son as an enemy, even though he doesn't see his father as an enemy. So that's a very advanced position to have. It comes from devotion, obviously. So Ajata Shatrava, and because of all this, Shanta. He's not enthralled with the object of the senses. He's doing good for all the people by trying to give them Krishna consciousness and feeding them, whatever. So Shanta, Sadhavak Sadhabhushana, these are the ornaments of a sadhu. Now how does he get that way? Next verse describes bhakti. Kapila Dev speaking in the capacity as an incarnation of Krishna. Mayanannena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yed vidham matkote tyakta karmanas tyakta swajana bandhava. So the sadhus are characterized by unerring, unalloyed, constant devotion to me, to Krishna. It says, Lord Kapila Dev. Ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yed vidham, executed with great determination. And so it's not this komala. Dridham. And for my sake, they'll give up anything that's against the principles of bhakti. Matkote tyakta karmanas. And even if their ties to their friends and family are impediments, they'll give those up too. Tyakta swajana bandhava. That's often is necessary. So then, he says to his mother, I forget this, all the Sanskrit is, but she says, "Oh mother, you should seek out such sadhus, because they can help you to cut off your mundane attachment and to become more and more attached to Krishna," basically. And then comes the key verse. Satam prasangad mamabirya sambido bhavanti ritkana rasaya nakata tad joshanat ashu apavarga vartmani shraddha rati bhaktiranu kramishyati. Such a wonderful verse. That's basically a description of the Hare Krishna movement. Prabhupada was, he's always asked, he had so many interviews with the newsmen and others, professors. So what is the purpose of this Hare Krishna movement? So basically, or this temple that you spent so much time building, basically it's a chance for people to come and hear about Krishna. That's the prime, means. And of course, see the deity, be alive in the kirtan, all these things. So what is that? Satam prasanga. Now notice there's the same word as he started out, but it has a different meaning. This thing, prasanga majanam pasham. So you have to cut those powerful bonds to material attachment and redirect it towards the sadhus. But here he said prasangam. It doesn't mean powerful attachments. It means meaningful association. It means association, coming together, hearing ardently, how ardently learning and hearing and chanting. So satam prasangan, with the sata is another word for sadhu. So very meaningful and intense and repeated association with real sadhus. Mama virya samvido. And what are you going to hear? Discussion of me, of my powerful pastimes. He's identifying as Krishna there. Mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata, which are life-giving elixir for the ear and the heart. Bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata. And following this process, tad joshanad, which is Apavarga Vartmani, the path of liberation. If you want to get into the Apavarga, this is the Apavarga, giving up the 4 words that begin with pa, pa, baba. Apavarga Vartmani. Then one develops step by step these 3 things. Shraddha, rati means attraction for Krishna. Shraddha, rati, and bhakti. Bhakti means prema bhakti. Anukramishti, step by step. So this is the process of devotional service Prabhupada is given us. And, things like the Bhagavad Gita class, which Prabhupada, wanted us to do every day. I'm trying my best to keep it at least 3 days a week now, is also very important. Because as soon as we open these books and we hear them and we discuss them, we're getting the association of not only Srila Prabhupada, but also a whole host of others who he, drew on to write these commentaries. So he's giving us, this incredible view of Brahma's day. Brahma's lifetime. And we learned in the previous verse about, even up to Brahmaloka is places of return. It's not good enough to just go to Brahmaloka. Although our particular Brahma, being a pure devotee, the head of the Sampradaya, that those on his planet who are advanced in Krishna consciousness will accompany him back to Goloka Vrindavan. But some won't, they'll be coming back, So it just gives you a little humility about, and some perspective on our little lifetime. I've been alive for a long time now, but it's almost over. So and it just goes. It goes right, Kathy. Didn't time speed up as you get older? Everyone has that experience. So that's all the more reason to be serious about becoming as Krishna conscious as possible before we have to take our next incarnation, hopefully, which will be a spiritual one. And it won't be a carnation at all. Right? And carnum is flesh. All right, any questions on 17? Okay. Now we're going to come up on some other famous verses. Famous, I guess we already passed those. No. Anyway. All right, going on. Avyakta vyaktayak sarva prabhavanta haragame ratyagame paliyante tatraivavyakta sangyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. All right, we'll discuss that for the next verse. Bhutta grama sahevayam bhutva paliyate ratyagame vishakparta pavavatya haragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Purport. The less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets and then again must come down to this planet, Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within the material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. In the day they receive various bodies for material activities, and at night they no longer have bodies but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. Then again they are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhutva paliyate. During the day they become manifest, and at night they are annihilated again and again. Paliyate means annihilated. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. This is in the body of Mahavishnu. And when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus, they transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. So just one note, there's other places in the CC and in the Krishna book actually, where you learn that the general process of successfully going back to Godhead involves going to, Krishna's Leela are always going on in the material universe somewhere, on some planet. Like right now, there's a Janmashtami on some planet. And tomorrow there'll be another one on a different planet. So Krishna can expand, he's like that. So, assuming that we become mature devotees and we have some idea of our eternal relationship with Krishna, and we die thinking of that, and longing to be reinstated, then we'll be born on the planet where Krishna is taking birth. So we're his contemporaries. Yeah. And we can then take part in, in the Vrindavan Leela on that particular planet. You didn't know about that? Because we got to get trained up in, in the details of our specific service. And then we go back to God. So we can look forward to that, hopefully, chant Hare Krishna with that in mind. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this is, sobering. If you believe the words of the Bhagavad Gita, this has been going on for a long time. Even if this is our first time around in Brahma's lifetime, one day of Brahma, who remembers the time? 8,640,000,000, something like that. 8 billion. So we don't want to hang around so much. This is our last birth or next to last birth, but it's really plan to go back. All right, so this is a famous verse. Parastasmat bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Parastasmat bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Yaksa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Purport. Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond all the changes of material nature, which is manifest and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahma. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter. I think, remember that. We belong intrinsically to the spiritual nature, being pure spirit, right? But since time immemorial, Prabhupada says you cannot really, try to figure out the date. It can be a very, very, very long time. We've been enthralled with the varieties of this material nature and absorbed in it, and completely forgotten our nature in the spiritual world, our identity. So having come to this human form of life, probably this is not the first time we've been human beings, but we've been very fortunate to come in touch with this eternal philosophy, with the pure devotee, at least through his books. I mean, my main relation with, associated with Prabhupada is definitely through his books, producing them, reading them, So he said, directly, I'm present there, just as Krishna's present here in his books. So here, Krishna, this is one of the few verses where he's describing his spiritual abode. And you see the contrast. Once going there, you don't come back. Whereas the description here, you become manifest, unmanifest, for millions of years, you're absorbed, you're not doing anything. It's a different kind of world. There's these 2 verses at the end of Brahma Samhita that I always like to meditate on and describing the spiritual world. Shriya kanta padama parusha kalpatanavo dhuma bhumischindamana mahito yamamatam kata ganam natim gamanam abhivangshi priyasaki chidanandam jyoti padama pitadasvajamapicha. Does anyone know that verse? So Shriya kanta, Shriya is the goddess of fortune. So goddess of fortunes kind of are the beloveds of Krishna there. Shriya Kanta. Kanta is the male. Padma Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Shriya Kanta Padma Purusha, Kalpata Davo Dhruma. All the trees there are desire trees. They're perfectly conscious, and they have the power to give you any fruit you want, that you want to offer to Krishna. Just like now, we had these beautiful mangoes. Now I have to wait another year and get more mango. But right, you got your fig tree. Can you get us some mangoes from the fig tree, please? Why? It's not desire trees. So they give you any fruit you want. And the Kalpata about Druma, Bhumis, Chintamani. All the land is made of Chintamani gems. Chintamani Ganamahi, Toyam Amritam, the water is nectar. All walking, nobody walks there. It's all dancing. Can you imagine, Kathy? Dancing. We have trouble dancing even in the arti, which is being. Natyam Gamanam Api Vangshi Priyasaki. And one can always hear that flute in the distance, Krishna's deer flute playing, Priyasaki, his friend. Now this is interesting. Chidanandam Jyotir, which means the spiritual effulgence, which is full of bliss. One can taste it. It's shining everywhere. Chidanam Jyotir Padamabitad Asvajam. You can taste it. So that's then the second verse is also. So this is. I don't know if Brahma is speaking this. I think he is. Maybe Krishna is speaking. So then, Sayatra Chirabdi Srabdi Surabib Justice Mahan Nameshardak Yova Vajatinihiatrabi Samayak Bajay Shweta Dvipam Tamihami Hagor Lokamidiyam Vidandaste Santa Chidibidachara Kadipaye. Now, why Brahma would say he's worshipping it, I'm not sure. But anyway, so it goes on. Now it's describing the cows. It says, the Surabhi cows are always so happy there that they're oozing out this milk, so it's all milky everywhere. Sayatra Chirabdi, Surabdi is flowing. Surabhi Justice Sumahan. Nimesh, now this is interesting. Nimeshardak Yova Vajatinihiatrapi Samayak. In that world, not even a half a second passes. It's always the eternal present. Nothing. Because how do you know that time is changing, is passing? Something's changing, you know? Like the clock, it's got to have something moving inside, otherwise it's useless, right? So there's no past or future, it's the eternal present. Nobody's getting older, you know? Things aren't, you know, you're worrying, oh my God, the election's coming up. It's not like that, you know? Every day is just another chance to experience varieties of ways of serving Krishna in loving devotion. That's it, you know? So, Nimesha means half a moment, not a half a moment. Sayatra Chi, okay, Nimesha, I forget the last Sanskrit. But he said this is the Goloka, he names it, and it's known only by a very few pure souls who walk this planet, on this earth, you know. So, it's beautiful. It comes at the end of the Brahma Samhita. So, you know, reading about that, and you can of course read in the Bhagavad Gita, there's so many beautiful descriptions of the Vrindavan manifestation of Goloka, you know, Krishna's Leela. So it's meant to enable us to become attracted to Krishna, to really become absorbed in those things and understand, oh, this is where we want to go, this is real. You know, this is, and remember, the three things that are increased in that discussion amongst devotees is Shraddha, Rati, attraction for Krishna, and Bhakti, ultimately Prema. So that faith is all important. Because without the faith, you become discouraged in devotional service. Then there's two kinds of faith. One is you have the faith in the philosophy and the descriptions and the words and so forth. But the other is that you have confidence in self that you can actually do it. That Krishna is so great that he can empower even me to practice this sincerely and, you know, give up the anarthas and so forth. So that's so important to have good association and to regularly take advantage of it. Okay, so where are we now? Parastasmatava. Did we do 21 too? No. Not yet, okay. Okay. Avyakto chara ityuktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapina navartante tadhama padamam mama. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns. That is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. By the way, this is another word that Prabhupada appropriated. You know, touchstone, look it up, it says it's a stone that you touch with gold to see if it's really gold or not. That's the original meaning. But there is a place, I think, in the Brahma Samhita where he says that he uses that word philosopher's stone. It's the philosopher's stone. Makes anything gold. So, there are also trees called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand, not just fruits. And there are cows known as Surabhi cows which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primal Lord, and the cause of all causes. He's clearly thinking of Brahma Samhita here. The Lord is accustomed to blow his, actually it should be to blowing, the Lord is accustomed to blowing his flute, Venam Kranantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like the color of clouds. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita. Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad 1.3.11, states that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. Purushan padang kinchit sa kashta sa paragatihi. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended to this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan in the district of Mathura, India. So we can pray that the flooding is over. Are you in tune with that, Ami? Have you heard anything about the flooding in Vrindavan, Mayapur, or Mathura lately? Yeah. Yeah, there's a big flood. Yeah, check it out. I think it may have gone down by now. This was a couple of days ago, but I saw on YouTube they had a little thing, and the fellow was the guy with the newsman giving the report. He's up to his waist in water, and yeah. What does it say? Still alert, so it's still going on. Yeah. Yeah, and they had recently, again on YouTube, I saw there was an advertisement. The devotees had an aerial, a drone, little movie of Vrindavan. They can do that now. They send up the cameras and they go, and they were showing. And I said, because I haven't been to Vrindavan in a while, about 25 years. And so there's all this development, there's a lot, I mean, it looks like some suburb of New York or something, I said, really? And anyone who say that, yeah, it's not like the old days, there's a lot of traffic and, air pollution and noise, so it's, but there are places where you can go to, if you go to Govardhan, there's a wonderful retreat center. Burijan Prabhu came into a substantial inheritance. And he used it to build a retreat center there, right in Govardhan, which I think I'd like to visit. He's a wonderful devotee. I'm sure he set it up really nicely. So right here, Krishna is giving us, a little taste of what we should be aspiring for, and Prabhupada describes it so nicely. And that's, we should not neglect to cultivate that desire to go there. There's a section of, the Nectar of Devotion is such an important book, and it gives a list of Krishna's qualities. This is part of the book. There's 64 qualities. They're also listed there in the Sanskrit in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. And then he gives a verse describing how Krishna manifests those pastimes in his Lila. Now that is a nice meditation, I'm thinking that I should try to put especially the description of the qualities into poems, to go with my much desired poeticization of the Lila Chanda by Rupa Goswami, which is his summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Lila. If you look at the past, you have my poetry file, you see that there's 3 verses which are like the few verses that, introducing it that I put into poetry. Because here's a little summary, okay, and here's a sample. Each pastime has its own meter that enhances the pastime. So this is Autan Nikamahasankulitam Baka Sakadara Stanashiyana Rambaka Kuchadasa Krishna Vidichitarodana Chanchada Patakuta Shakada Benodana. You understand it? Not so much. So Autanika means the Uttana ceremony, which is a ceremony when the child, the little newborn, doesn't just lay on his back, but he rolls over on his stomach ready to crawl, right? So this is a isn't that Uttana more or less? Yeah. You know. And it's only for ladies with children. That's the festival. The guys are not born, and you know about that. So anyway, it was Krishna Uttana festival. So Mother Yashoda, put him down. She was greeting. Autana Sankulitama Shakadara Shakata is like under the. This is the cart. Yeah, under the cart. Shakadarastana Shayana Lambaka, a little cradle. He's under there. Vidichitadodana. Autanika Mahasankulitam Baka Shakadara Shayana Lambaka Kucharasa Trishna Vidichitadodana. So he wanted to suck her breasts, but she couldn't hear him because he was getting all the guests. So he became upset and he started moving his feet, and he hits the cart, and the whole thing is there's a demon in there in the cart. Kills the demon. And this is of course we had that Putana happened before that, but this is like near the beginning. Another disaster. What's happening with this child? Okay, and miraculously he wasn't hurt, right? So there's a relief. So it goes on like that. And then it describes the similar verses describing Trinavarta, how he went up and then here's one of my favorite verses of all time, describing the arrival of Gargamuni coming, giving the names. Nabishulila Langitahayana, Garga Vishkata Nama Rasayana, Ring and Amand. Now just get this, you can ring and Amand at the Nand and the Kate at the Mononimatap at the Gokul the Chaitana. So ringana means crawling. See, ring and among ring and among the. So with his crawling, he decorated the courtyard of Nanda. Ring and among the Nanda in the Ketana and Modani Matab at the Gokul the Chaitana. And with his sweet activities, he delighted all the residents of Vrindavan, especially the elder gopis. So I mean, what a wonderful meditation. Ring and among the Nanda in the Ketana, Modani Matab at the Gokul the Chaitana. So this is and that goes through all the way to the killing of Kamsa, and it's really delightful. Anyway, I can send it to you. Just write me an email. I have it on my computer, not with a poem, but the English. You can see this in English and Sanskrit. So this is a legacy. This is the whole idea. Is that Lord Chaitanya, he gave and he inspired, of course, Rupa Goswami Sanatana to write these things. And he wrote his Shikshastika. So it gives us a wonderful way of absorbing the mind, memorizing, sharing, these things, and writing about them, and then what? Becoming more and more attracted, to be part of it, to enter into it, and so that's that's the process of yoga, by which we cultivate the mind being fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna, you see. And leading our life in such a way that we remain connected to Krishna through performing all kinds of services that we know from the Shastra are pleasing to him, cooking and, of course, chanting and cleaning and all these different things. And in this way, we fill our minds with thoughts of Krishna and desire to see him and to be part of those pastimes. That's the whole idea. So, and Bhagavad Gita is a good, very important first step in that direction. So, how far did we get? Padastasmat, right? Avyakto chade utyuktas. We did that one already. Purushak sapara partha. Bhaktya labhyas tvananyaya. Yasyantak stani bhutani. Yena sarvamidam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this is interesting. Krishna is speaking about himself, but he doesn't say I. He said the Supreme Person. Purusha Kripat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Purport. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes the Supreme Abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the variegatedness manifest there is of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. That variegatedness is the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual or superior energy described in the 7th chapter is also manifest there. As far as the material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in his supreme abode, he is nonetheless all-pervading by his material energy. So by his spiritual and material energies, he is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasantakstani means that everything is sustained within him, within either his spiritual or material energy. The Lord is all-pervading by these two energies. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. The Vedas, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 121, also describe the supreme abode and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ego Vishi Sarvaga Krishna. In that abode there is only one Supreme Personality of Godhead whose name is Krishna. He is the supreme merciful deity, and although situated there as one, he has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. The Vedas compare the Lord to a tree standing still, yet bearing many varieties of fruits, flowers, and changing leaves. The plenary expansions of the Lord, who preside over the Vaikuntha planets, are four-armed, and they are known by a variety of names. Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. The Brahma Samhita 537 confirms that although the Lord is always in the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan, he is all-pervading, so that everything is going on nicely. Goloka eva nivisat takilatma bhutaha. As stated in the Vedas, Shvetashvara Upanishad 6.8, Padasya Shakti Vividai Vishuyate Swabhavaki Jnanabala Kriyacha. His energies are so expansive that they systematically conduct everything in the cosmic manifestation without a flaw, although the Supreme Lord is far, far away. And this last verse here, Prabhupada would often quote the first part. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natat samasyabhyadikasta drishyate. And from that, he said, what is Natasya Karyam? He doesn't do anything, because it's all being done by his energies. Parasya Shaktir, Vividhai Vishuyate, Swabhavati, Jnana Bala Kriyacha. So Prabhupada would always say, he doesn't have to do anything, because by his expansions, different avatars, like, Chiradakshay Vishnu and others, and his energies, and everything is carried out by his will. And he can spend his time playing. Leela, everything. So Prabhupada, this is part of the language, the difference. So instead of saying he doesn't have to do anything in order to manage everything, everything is done by his agents, he says he has nothing to do. But how does he have nothing to do? He's doing so much every day. He has to go out to herd the cows, everything. So you have to be careful. If you hear Prabhupada say Krishna has nothing to do, it means he doesn't have to do anything in order to manage everything. He can just, It's interesting. All right, it's getting late. So that's a good place to stop. We'll resume on tomorrow, 23. And let's see, one or two poems. I don't know if we... So this is 23, is it, right? Okay. So let's see. All right, I'll do the first verse of the, what is it? The Tribhangi Chandastava. Yamalajana bandana mashata danjana mahiganjana galalasa badam. Pasupada padandanam abasata kandana matisunda damadavindakadam. Radagobhavadujana vidichita pujana mudukujana namavenu dadam. Smadanama vachakshana makalavilakshana tanalakshana matidakshadam. You broke the two Himalayan trees, you love to delight your pure devotees. You crushed the pride of the Kali snake with your prancing dance in the Yamuna lake. You're the cowherds prince. You're the coward's prince, and the life and soul to serve you with love is their only goal. In the caves you meet the gopis fair, and enjoy sweet loving pastimes there. You're dashing, clever, and most debonair. Your lotus hands give blessings rare. To worship you again and again is the way of the wives of the coward men. When the gopis hear the flute you play, hold. When the gopis hear the flute you hold, their passion grows 1,000-fold. Of amorous joking, you're the king. Indeed, you're skilled at everything. Then it goes on. We don't have time to do that one. And I don't remember it so well. So, not the English anyway. Okay, we'll resume tomorrow.